see the world through other people's eyes. Now, empathy is a quality of character that can change the world.
Hi, it's Edwin Rutsch, and this is Dialogues on How to Build a Culture of Empathy. And today I'm here with Ronny and Katrine, and you'll have to pronounce the last name again for me.
Yttrehus.
Yttrehus.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining me. And we're talking to you in Norway. You're in Oslo, is that?
That's right. Yes.
Oh, great. And so you're part of a empathic communication training with Lisbeth Halder Brudal. And can you give me a little bit of background about yourself and maybe this training that you're doing?
Yes, we are working as ministers in a congregation in Norway. And in our work, in our ministry, we work a lot with counseling with married people, families, individuals. And when we got in touch with Lisbeth Holte Brudal, we got very interested in her method of empathy. Because many times we feel we would like to be, have empathy with the people we're meeting. We would like to help them have empathy with each other. But sometimes we don't know how. Mm. And, her method was something that we like to learn more about, so we can see more how can we actually have empathy in our ministry, but also in the relationships that we are in. So
right. So she has like two courses. One is like a 20-hour training, and then I guess there's a teacher training, which is 40 hours. Mm-hmm. And so it sounds like you've taken some of the training, and what we wanted to kind of cover is we've interviewed her and some other people who have been working with it. Wanted to kind of hear about your experience with it and kind of what your plans are and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think we are taking sort of an initial introductory course at first. We will go into the training program to be trainers ourselves in the fall. My impression so far from this is that it's amazingly simple to put into practice. I like that. Even after a small amount of training, I feel like I can see the effect in how I can communicate with people around me, even with kids. And I had one of my friends who was joining this initial class. She tried it out in her boy just after the first day of training, and she came back and she was so enthusiastic. It was incredible to see how it worked. She was talking to her 6-year-old son, and he was going through a bit of a rebellious period, and she had a really good talk with him, and she came back and she said, "Oh wow, this was so simple, it works." And so it's very inspiring to have a tool that actually is not so complicated, and I still need to learn a lot about it, but it already makes a difference.
Yeah, so you've done how many hours of training now with this?
We had a full day seminar with Lisbeth Holte Brudal. And then we have been doing training sessions afterwards, training on the methods. It's very good because it's we learn by doing. We have specific cases, and then we train on those. And to have a mentor that can give us feedback and help us as we are training on this is very helpful. Mm-hmm. So what we're going to do in the fall is to do the 40 hours course, where we are going to be trained to be trainers. Mm-hmm. Because we would like to pass it on to others, not only use it ourselves in our ministry, but to really help a lot of people around us get to know this method and use it in their lives as well.
So what was it like, the training that you did? Kind of, can you give an outline of the training? Kind of what was your experience, and maybe some stories of what were the case studies that you were practicing with?
We would typically have a couple of cases, and we would take turns playing out these parts with each other. So one person would be typical, maybe someone who was going through a rough time at work with a new boss or something, or it would be maybe mother of 3 kids who was was close to a nervous breakdown because her husband was traveling so much, or typical things that you will experience, not overall terribly traumatic things, but hard things in everyday life. And then we would sit down and we would have someone watching us, like someone who's trained in this. And if I was the person who was impersonating this, case, then the other person would try implement these things from the method. Talk with me in a way that will help me to open up and talk about what I feel, what I think about it, and even in the end, offer their own like insights and advice and perspective on it. And then the mentor would occasionally stop us if it was going in the wrong direction, or if he saw something that was maybe hindering the communication. Most of the time he would just listen, and then afterwards he would give us feedback, and this was good, this was great, maybe you could think about that, or it was really very practical and very helpful. So, and then afterwards we would switch. So, then I would be playing the part of the person who would be listening. So it was a lot of fun too, actually.
Yeah, you're kind of acting, right? It's like you're given it's like you are a person, and your husband is traveling and you're feeling very upset, and now tell your story, and the other person listens. So you kind of take on the role playing and start listening to the person, and then you kind of practice how to listen, empathically. And what are the kind of the process that you're using to listen empathically? What are you kind of doing there?
Yeah. To me, it's like when we went to the class, some of us, we feel, it's easy for us to show empathy. Others feel, no, I'm not so good at this. But what was very good about the teaching from Lisbeth is that it's based on research, and that says that we all can be trained and develop, empathy to others. And it's a method that we learn to use in this course. And it's a 4-step method. And to me, it was very challenging to follow it. It's a very simple method, but it's very challenging because I'm used to, when somebody starts to share their story, I'm used to interrupting, giving my opinion, say something, analyze it very fast, and it's so easy to do that. It's a temptation. And to the point is, in the first part, to just let them tell their story, the narrative, and to listen and ask questions that help them explain, their story, but not to give comments or analyze or feedback. Then the second step is for them to talk about their feelings about it at the time, or how they feel about it now, and ask questions that help them come in touch with their feelings and share them. And the third part, it's for them to reflect about this, their own thoughts about it, their reflections. How do they see it now, and come up with their own ideas about it. And then, so that's the 3, you can say, parts where we try to step into their shoes. And the only thing we are doing is to help them process, and for us to help them in that process. And then in the 4th part, we go back into our own shoes and ask if they would like to have our perspective or feedback, where we can summarize things or give our feedback, and in their about their situation. So we really try to train using this method, and some of it we do more naturally in conversations. But I must admit, many times I don't do this, and I can see how now how this is very helpful, And also we got input to do this in not only in the training sessions, but when we do marriage counseling, like we do family counseling with individuals, to try to use the method. And then when we come for the next training time, to share our experiences, how this is helping us, what we are learning from this. And I feel we are just in the beginning of applying this method, and we are looking forward to developing it and growing it.
So it sounds like the first part is kind of just kind of having presence with the person, and you just say, tell me your story, what's going on, I'm here to listen. And then the next part is maybe asking some clarifying questions. Is that the part to kind of like dig a little deeper? And then are you kind of rephrasing, stating what you're hearing?
Yes, sometimes the person is very, they are just talking, sharing their story, their feelings and thoughts, and it goes very smoothly. Sometimes, especially with men, I think, and especially maybe with Norwegians, when they don't share so much, they need help, and they don't really know how they're feeling. They don't know what they are thinking, and it's helpful for them to have questions, or even someone that are interested in their feelings and thoughts, because they feel, oh, I shouldn't talk about my feelings or what I'm thinking. So someone that would like to listen to them, that can open up a door for them, and they have that interest. So questions are more to help them go deeper, like you said, and they should not be to direct them into a specific direction, or that we have an agenda where we want to lead them in some specific direction. It's just very open questions to help them dig deeper.
Yeah. So how did you come to this? How did you kind of get interested in this process and kind of step into this? Like, how did you get? Did you hear about it from people, or just?
It's very interesting. We were in this process of trying to learn more about how to help people, counseling, and we have been going to different courses, to be trained in that. And then it happened to be actually one of our close friends and neighbors. He is the son of Lisbeth Holta Brudal. So, and we just moved to Oslo, and we started to talk about, to him about what is she doing. And he went to one of these courses, and he is trained. And after talking to him, I felt, wow, this is really something we should check out for our ministry. So then we just invited Lisbeth home and asked her about her course, and we got very excited because we really felt this can help us personally and the people we are trying to help, So, and then we set up this 1 day of introduction course, and we invited 10 of our friends in church to join, leaders in the church. And we were so excited about this after that introduction, that course, that we would like to do the training now. So it's going to be 12 of us doing the training, so we can train others in this.
So you're both ministers, and you have a church or a congregation, and so you're dealing with your congregation, wanting to kind of facilitate dialogue and kind of the well-being of all your parishioners or your people in your congregation. So you're feeling this is a way for you to kind of contribute to them.
Absolutely.
Yes, and also, I like your the main point of your website there, to create a culture of empathy, because that's what we would like to see in our congregation. But not only that, in our family we would like to have that. In our marriage we would like to have that. With our kids, with our friends, we would like to have that. And also when we do marriage seminars and parenting seminars, it's not only for the congregation; it's open for everybody. And this is going to be a huge part now of what we are teaching in the seminars too, the empathic communication, because we really feel we all need this, and so yeah.
Yeah. So that sounds really good, because that's what I've been kind of working on. It's like, how do we create more empathy in the world and create a movement? So it's very encouraging to think of, like a congregation or a church that's kind of making it part of what it's about, and kind of teaching those processes and the value of empathy. And it sounds like you're going to try to train. You have 12 of your people in your congregation that are taking this training.
Yeah, and we are also in touch with our churches that we work together with in other places in Norway and the Nordics. So this is something we would like to pass on to our colleagues, and the partners we are working with, because we have been talking about empathy a lot, and we all understand it's important in relationships. But I think what we have been, what I like about this, it adds the very basic tools that you can use even if you're not going if you're not a psychologist or professional counselor, but people that don't have this as a profession can learn this and use it in the relationships. I think that is something I really like about this method. So.
Yeah, so it's kind of like that it's a real hands-on, something that you can learn, a real process that you can kind of incorporate, and anyone can do it. So in your, I guess, if you have 12 people in your congregation learning it, they'll be spreading it to the other ones. And I imagine it'll have a big effect on the whole congregation, and that it'll be spreading to all, I guess, all the different members eventually in one way or another.
Yes.
So, wow. So how do you feel about it? If I'm using this process of yours, I'll try to use the process for the interviewing. What's it doing for you, kind of at a felt kind of a level?
How we feel about it? No, I'm excited about anything that I feel I can develop. If it's, you tend to think of yourself as this kind of person, like I have these weaknesses and these strengths and I know about it, and the older I get, I'm more and more aware about my weaknesses, but it's good to see and understand that even based on research, I can actually change in my, what can I say, level of empathy and how I am, viewed as a person, how I am not for me to look good, but how people, feel about being with me and how I can help them and opening up and be really a close friend, and I think that's, it's funny that it should be such a very practical thing, but it is, it is a very practical thing, and somehow along the line is something that is not naturally learned anymore in society. So we just need to pick it up and help each other and develop it, and I'm just excited about that, and it will be a long process, I'm sure. I can, have these little conversations with myself while I'm talking to people. And I go, oh, here you go again, and I did, I can see how I fall into my, former mistakes, but I learn, and I know where to go. It's not like I'm just going home and feeling bad about myself. If I didn't have a good talk with someone, I can go back and I can look at it and I can see, oh, this is where I went wrong. I should have probably done this. Then next time I know what I can do better. And I appreciate that.
So you're kind of excited because you've got kind of a methodology to deepen the connections, and it's Do you have any story of something that's happened? Like a real anecdote, or of how you've had a dialogue that you felt was kind of more empathic, or?
Yeah, I think for me, I was in this counseling situation, and this man, he came and he had a very specific advice he wanted to ask me for in a specific situation. And I think my tendency is to, especially when people I know from before, and this was a person like that, I knew him, is to be very straightforward and give him some advice and bye-bye. That's a very short conversation. But remembering the method, I started to ask him about, more to explain the situation more, to explain his feelings and his thoughts about it. And it came out, it was a lot of stuff from his background with his father. He started to cry, and there's a lot of things that it helped him to deal with deeper stuff, not just the situation and the advice what to do, but to dig deeper and go to the root. This is just one example. I have many examples like that. How powerful, and even in a quite short conversation, it can be to help them understand what is the root. But also for me, then I can actually say something meaningful to the person, because we are talking about the real stuff, the root here, and not only the superficial, And so I think that's the stories like that. But even with my daughter, it was a situation at school, and it's easy sometimes. This situation was like that. She will say something, not just a sentence, and for me, I'm very tempted to just respond with a sentence to that. But I used this method, asked her, and it came out how she was feeling what she was feeling and thinking about situation at school, and then I could help her actually deal with the situation, and go through this together with her, and then she felt equipped to go back to school and deal with it. you know.
Mm.
So even in our marriage, sometimes we need to remind each other of the course. You're starting a fight or a discussion. It's like, okay, we need to stop now and try to use what we are learning. So it's like I think in my everyday life, this is something that's really helped me. So
Yeah. So, what are your kind of expectations going forward? How do you kind of see this, your work kind of going forward with the training and in your congregation?
I think I now can see how this, like we talked about the culture of empathy, it can actually happen, because sometimes when we see a need, we really would like to grow in this, and we don't see the steps. How do we do that? How do we implement it? I think it's a challenge. So what I feel now, it's what we are learning is it's both the attitude, the attitude behind it, and that is something we had that intentions. We would like to have this attitude of empathy, but when we have more the tools and we can apply them, I think this is something that is going to be very powerful, because now we're already seeing the good fruits or the effect of it in a congregation. But I think as we are not only in our congregation, but new members are coming in, we are starting new congregations to have this culture from the beginning, and because it's a need in our society, and I think that's very powerful, and that's what we need. So I really think this can make a huge difference in our lives and everybody we are meeting, and to be like a core thing, in our group here. So
Yeah, so it sounds like you're really looking forward to kind of implementing it in the congregation, just kind of keep developing it and kind of expanding it, and maybe even expanding it to other congregations, and sort of it's a movement. That's kind of what I've been looking at. It's like, how do we kind of build a whole worldwide movement for fostering empathy? And so it feels very encouraging when I see that you're doing this and really trying to do it within your community, and then it's having those tools. Like you can say, just be more empathic. I mean, that's one thing, but when you have some kind of processes and tools for learning it, that really kind of helps to make it real.
yes.
Yeah. Well, what do you think about the whole notion of a culture of empathy? Really building a social movement around this, because this is like one process. And there's a lot of processes for fostering empathy, and it seems to me that it's like making it, start networking with people around the world, to really, have a cultural shift where empathy becomes a core cultural value.
Yeah, I think next week we are going to the US for a conference, and we are meeting with members in our church from 150 different countries, and we all are trying in different ways. They're trying to grow in these things. But I think when we meet a lot of people from all over the world in this place, it's a great opportunity to share with each other and learn from each other, and we can share with them what we are learning, and we can learn from them, because we know there are several of the classes in the seminar are on the topic of empathy. It's planned by someone else. So I know that this is something that many are working on and looking into specifically. So I think that's we have a lot of opportunities all the time.
Yeah.
To help this move forward. I think as long as we are in relationships with people.
Yeah. Well, I was looking at doing panel discussions online. So I'm doing these interviews, which is really great, and I love hearing your stories and your experiences. But maybe even if you go to that conference, if there are some people who are interested in empathy, to have some group, maybe 5 people in a panel.
Yes.
So we're doing this online conference on how to build a culture of empathy, and one of the sections is in interfaith. So we've interviewed several people around interfaith, and so,
Sounds very. Yes, I think that's a very good idea.
So I invite you to host a panel if you'd like to do a panel. Like, how can we kind of expand this? Because there's, are you looking at other methods for empathy in the sense? Are you focusing on this method, or kind of looking to really?
No, other methods too. Yeah, we
Mhm.
just came to this course. It was based on a course in schema therapy that we joined. It's a part of cognitive therapy. And some of our friends from Singapore actually started a curriculum where they are training people that are doing marriage counseling and family counseling, like we are doing, a course, a different approach to counseling. And they talk about vulnerability, very similar things. How you help people share their feelings, their anxiety, and their weaknesses and stuff. And actually, when we went through that course, and then we met with Lisbeth Holter Brudal, there was a lot of similarities in that. So we are looking into everything that can help us. So so I think also I would like to spend more time looking at your website and the different interviews you have there, or the material. So we look forward to do that also.
Yeah, I've also been looking at the arts. The arts have a lot of do a lot with empathy because this method seems to be kind of more verbal, right? If there's a lot of talking and it's a very verbal kind of a process. And then you have the arts, which is the real getting into acting and dance and all kinds of mirroring kind of processes. So so it's a whole kind of a field, but this sounds like a great process there in Norway.
Yeah.
So what else do you think is important to kind of talk about with this process? Is there other kind of aspects of it you'd like to share?
No, I can't think of anything specific.
No, I
right
think
now,
there's one thing. I think what an example is from Norway where the people Lisbeth are training, it's doctors, people in the healthcare. She's training teachers. Now she's training us. We are ministers in a church. I think it's very interesting to see the enthusiasm and how they can use these tools in all, you can say, parts of society. I think that is so. It's kind of a universal thing. It's not like a specific course for if you are a doctor, and then a different course. It's the exact same course, exact same thing. I find that very interesting. I think that's quite unique, actually. And we don't need to have any background as a psychologist, And I think in some courses you need that because you need more understanding. You need more deeper understanding. And if you're going to be, so that's that. But this thing it's for everybody, and you can apply it. If you have a lot of background with counseling, or if you have no background, this is something you can apply and use. So I think that is very interesting.
Yeah, that it's very accessible to everyone. It's not just for professionals, because she was talking about it being for healthcare workers and teachers, but you're seeing it kind of even expanding for just interpersonal for everybody. Then as a tool. Yeah. So everybody can use it in their family. They can use it. I mean, the students can use it with each other. The healthcare workers can use it with each other. The teachers. So it's really just how do we create empathy between all people and kind of facilitate that. And yeah. Okay. So was there more that you? Sorry.
Yeah, well, I think it's more important than ever before because this is a sort of a different angle or a different problem in a way in today's society with everything being so getting more and more impersonalized, with the communications being via SMS, via, chatting on the internet, I think I can see this as a danger in the future, especially with the new generations growing up. They are not used to even sitting down with someone face to face and like talking through a problem, and so and I do think there are a lot of people aware of that, but somehow this is like, I think this is a way that we can help, we can train. And I think this training is going to become more and more important because our children are not, they will grow up into a world that is even more, electronic in a way. So, I think it's very, very important to focus on it, and anything that can help people learn and how to be close and have good relationships and really facing each other and being there for each other in the real way, not just via Facebook. So that's what I feel. It's kind of my little. I have an extra agenda there on my heart because I can see that it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the next decades.
Yeah, it's like the technology can be kind of alienating. You really want to find deeper connections with people. So kind of more about maybe a heartfelt connection. Yeah.
Read in the newspaper today that this year also Norway was number one in the best country to live in the world. United Nations, they have this every year. They give you the country. Norway is the best country. And I was thinking about it, what are the criteria? Because I think Norway is a good country if you think about finances and the nature and stuff. But we have a huge problem with loneliness. Huge problem. A lot of lonely people. And it leads to depression, and it's a big challenge in our society. And even if we are the best country to live in, when it look at certain criteria, this loneliness thing, one of the most important things to come out of that is to have the empathy, to connect with people, and so that is, I think this is one of the main things we need in our country at this time. So.
Yeah, I think when I think of Norway, I think of all these existentialist philosophers or whatever. It's all you're just on your own, and this, at least the movies I see from Norway, they really convey that existential loneliness, and so maybe this is like a cultural shift to shift the whole culture to being more connected, and maybe empathy being a more foundational value or something.
Yeah, we need that.
Yeah. Well, a lot of times when I usually start these interviews with like a metaphor, asking people what their metaphors for empathy are. Usually empathy is even described as the metaphor of standing in someone else's shoes and looking through someone else's eyes. And for me, empathy is like a cornucopia in that it kind of opens the door to this richness of experience. And I think cornucopia is actually a Norse, the Horn of Plenty. I think that's a Norse mythology, isn't it?
I think so.
Is it? Yeah, maybe
Could be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway. So do you have metaphors? What is empathy like for you, kind of metaphorically?
Well, it's funny that actually empathy, in Norwegian, it's the word for it is medfølelse, and it literally means med is with, and følelse is feeling. So with feeling, like feeling with. So it's a very descriptive word in a sense that it sort of incorporates the meaning of like feeling with. Maybe that's not really a metaphor, but it's like the literal sense of the word. But I think it's very. I think that's what it's all about. It's really be willing to take part in someone else's feelings in a way, not just listen. I mean, that's part of it, but really engaging and daring to do that. So I think that's for me anyway. That's what I think of.
Yeah, the kind of feeling aspect of it. Yeah. And kind of.
I agree with my wife there.
Oh, okay. You both have the same metaphor, the same description. Well, okay, then if there's anything else, we could go into that, or we'd like to do some panels. Really, kind of keep the conversation going. And I'm kind of looking at movement building, like how do we actually build a movement, and how do we foster it? So I don't know, do you have ideas for, movement building? How do we change, the whole culture? What do we do to create a worldwide culture of empathy? And how do we build a movement to do it?
Yeah.
Well, I think, well, the most tried and true method of building any sort of movement is possible. I think it is based on the principle that you multiply yourself, in a sense that you give on something that you expect others to give on, you know. So it's kind of like implied. And I think that's what most of Christianity is based on, for instance. I mean, but it's, you know, you see it in other things too. You see it in more in like business world. You see it with this multi-level marketing, you know, how they do that. Of course, they have all kinds of ulterior motives to do that. But if people have the motive to create a culture of empathy, I think they will, you know, I think they will want to give it on to others. If they have a tool or something that helps them and has made an effect in their life, I think most people, maybe not everyone, but a lot of people will be willing to and wanting to contribute by giving it on to other people. That's what I think. But maybe I'm just being idealistic or something.
No, I agree. But I also think what you're doing is great.
Yeah.
Because you need a kind of a, what do you say, format, or you need some kind of opportunity to do more than just with the people you're actually meeting in your neighborhood or in your everyday life. So I think it's a good idea to set up like panels with people from different parts of the world, and we can learn from each other, and we can refer to each other in our situations where we are trying to, you know, help this move forward. So maybe that is something we can talk more about, how to set up that through your site and make it accessible easily, and you know, so it's easy, you know, accessible to everybody, and there are kind of places you can go. It's accessible to find out more, and we can refer to your site or other things, and just you know, build on this, I think.
Yeah. So it seemed to be two parts there. One was the first part was maybe modeling it. If we can model it and be it, that then we kind of pass it on. Seemed to be what I was hearing, and then also to kind of maybe the dialogue part is like creating a dialogue. Just getting people to talk about it. That's kind of what I've been doing with these you know, online here. I asked people, like, how do we create a culture of empathy? And they said, create a dialogue. Just engage people to start thinking about it and dialoguing and keep expanding. So I really appreciate your dialoguing with me on this, and you know, we'll kind of set up something then via email to kind of keep the dialogue going and keep kind of building a movement together.
Very good.
Okay, well, thank you so much for sharing your time. Been very enjoyable.
Same to you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Bye.
See the world through other people's eyes. Now, empathy is a quality of character that can change the world.